Okay, I'm ready.
Because Facebook, okay, we are live, but not on Facebook, just on YouTube and on Twitter tonight, which is okay. StreamYard is finding it hard to connect back to Facebook because Facebook had an outage earlier today. So, hello and welcome to Ladies Corner with T. I am T Adeyemo, and this is our first show back this season. I know we have the grill on a Wednesday night, but this is the first time this season actually inviting a guest, and we're talking about something you would find interesting. My first guest this season is Teena Sandhu, and to some people, she needs no introduction. So I'm just very pleased to welcome Tina tonight to Ladies Corner. Hello, Tina. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and privilege, T, for having me tonight. So
You're
I'm
welcome.
hi, I'm Teena Sandhu, and I was a former Muslim who eventually discovered the truth about who Jesus Christ really is. And as a Muslim, I believed in Jesus. I was told that Jesus was a prophet of Islam. And today I believe in Jesus Christ as the one and only Son of God. And the evidence of my personal experience and supernatural encounters of dreams, signs, and wonders, and just discovering my gifts led me to the evidence that I could not deny that Jesus Christ was real. And also discovering my gift as a spoken word
Spoken
artist.
word artist. We're coming to all that good stuff. I see you've run ahead of me tonight, Tina. I wanted us to get into this because I don't often invite people, and anyone listening may be wondering what are we talking about? And so tonight we wanted to consider your conversion. Usually, I stay away from issues of faith because it can get quite contentious. And often I find my subjective experiences, you do not meet people who convert from Christianity to Islam. No, yeah, from Islam to Christianity. I beg your pardon. However, having said that, I've met people who were atheists that converted into Buddhism, or people who were agnostics that converted into Hinduism. So I've seen things like that. So I find your sort of conversion a rarity. And I wanted to examine it from a very personal lens because not just that you're a spoken word artist, you have been interviewed by Robert Melchuk. You've been interviewed on Everyday Miracles podcast, and you've done several other interviews talking about your experience. So, without much delay, let's get into it. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, how you grew up, where you grew up?
Yeah. And so before I start, I just want to I just want people to understand, first of all, that I'm not here to condemn or offend Muslims. I'm here to speak about my truth and what I actually experienced in the only Islam that I knew and grew up in. So, I just want people to understand that as far as I know, there are two branches of Islam, which is, first of all, the Sunni and then the Shia. Some people may not heard of it, but it's just a little bit of education so you guys know the actual background that I came from. So basically, Shia is more of the liberal type of Islam, and those are people that are the more liberal, and they practice where like the men believe in empowering their women, and they believe in educating their women and empowering the next generation. So and then there are those who practice the extreme side through and believe that women should have no choices or to be educated or not to be educated, and if they are, um, you know, they need to be shown in their rightful place, so which can be expressed through rape forced pre-arranged marriages. An example would be extremists. That's what's happening in Afghanistan today with the Taliban, and women being prisoners in their own home. So unfortunately for me, I grew up in a more strict and cultural side of Islam, but I never knew that any other Islam existed. So I was born and raised in the UK in a Bangladeshi cultural family with high values of family principle and standards. I lived with my 6 brothers and sisters and parents who were devoted Muslim. But for me, Islam was not actually a tolerant religion. It was a religion for me full of fear, intimidation, control, and silence. And growing up, I felt that I was never treated equally. Islam and my culture actually took away my childhood. It robbed me of my teenage life, and life was not actually fair. I was restricted from many things, which became my normality. For example, I wasn't allowed to wear Western clothes. I wasn't, allowed to go out without covering my hair. Just the most simplest things, or I wasn't allowed to go out and see my friends because I was instilled with so many rules. I was brainwashed in the way of life that only the true religion was Islam, and everyone else would be known as infidel, which means non-believers. And I was told that non-believers, the infidels, will burn in hell. So I felt suffocated in a religion full of fear, not knowing whether I will actually end up in heaven or hell. So with Islam, no matter how much good deed you did, ending in heaven would never be a guaranteed. So actually, from a young age, I suffered from quite a few abuse. So my story actually begins from 7 years old. My first sexual predator stepped into my life in my parents' home, and it was a very close family friend who I referred to as Granddad. I had no voice to speak, or did I know how to use the right vocabulary. I was too scared and confused to say anything. If I did, I was told by my abuser that there would be a price to pay. Going back, I was 13, 14 years old, possibly younger. I attended a local mosque with my siblings to learn and practice the theology of Islam and reciting the Quran. Our mosque imam, the spiritual leader, sexually abused 3 of us girls. And that a diabolical act of sin coming from a highly respected leader. If we speak, would anyone actually really believe us? No. Instead, we would get beaten up, and this would cause a lot of shame, a lot of dishonor to our families and communities. So really, there was no escape, but this experience held me captive, like many others.
Sorry, Teena, could I just ask you here?
Yeah.
Have you ever mentioned to your parents what this imam did, or the other girls that were also abused? Has anyone come out to? Because what this guy is a pedophile, and I know the UK has strong laws against pedophiles, and at some point it needs to be reported. Has any of that happened?
Well, to be honest, I came from a religion which was extremely strict, and a subject such as that was extremely taboo. So we wouldn't, first of all, we wouldn't know how to bring up the subject. We wouldn't know what to say. It would just bring complete dishonor and disrespect to the families. So we, something like subjects like this was never actually, we weren't never educated with. So we kept silence. And that was one of the reasons we could not really speak out, because we just didn't know how to. And being women, it was such a shameful subject to talk about.
It is. It is. It is. I hear what you're saying to me. It is. So shortly afterwards, you turned. How did? It's just really even difficult to imagine how horrific that would have been for you and the other girls involved. You can talk to us about what happened later on, after this, and now maybe you found healing. How did you come? Do people even heal from sexual abuse? How did you find healing? How did you try to heal if you could not tell anybody about it?
I don't think I ever actually healed from it. It was a deep secret that we kept for years, actually for decades. I've
Mm,
only started to speak about it when I
mm,
found Christ. Otherwise, it was a deep, deep secret
mm, mm.
that was just kept locked away and silenced. But it was something that when I started to talk about it, um, I knew that I wasn't on my own. And
Of course.
having to talk about it and other women coming forward, that's when the healing process began for myself. Knowing that I wasn't actually on my own and there were many other women out there just like myself that couldn't speak about such things.
I hear you. I hear you. So a little afterwards, you were a praying marriage was organized for you. That
Yeah.
was this the culture of Bangladeshi girls at this time, or was it a singular, unique event for you?
You know, I can't speak for other families, but it is a very cultural thing that could, happen, and it happens a lot in Muslim families and Pakistani families and Bangladeshi families. But like I said, it depends. Some people are very westernized and liberal, and some people are just sort of like brought up in a really strict family where like you just can't speak out. So it is most like a traditional cultural thing that takes
Mm,
place quite a lot.
mm.
And unfortunately, it's something that a lot of girls feel trapped in.
So how did you come out of it?
Well, I can tell you like what actually happened. I was born and raised in the UK. I actually live in Canada now, but when I was 17 years old, I was um, I was actually in a forced prearranged marriage, and my life was already mapped and planned out for me by the hands of others. For me, there was no way out. My role as a Muslim female, I just had to accept it and just obey the rules. So I was in the UK. I remember I was forced in a traditional bridal outfit with no actual physical husband present. I was forced and pressured and blackmailed to accept and agree to a marriage covenant over a telephone where my future husband to be would be on a telephone in Bangladesh waiting for me to agree to a marriage and say yes. So, I, I had no choice, but I had to agree with it as much as I deep down, as much as I didn't want to. It's so hard when you can't really speak up. At that point, I feel so trapped. So, uh, I had to start working at that point. The immigration process had to start. But then a few months later, I was taken to Bangladesh in a village where the marriage ceremony would take place. And 2 weeks later, it was my 18th birthday. Looking back, I realized that, my family did what they thought was best. for me, because of the culture that I was brought up in. So for me, my dreams shattered. Making something of my life or going into further education was not an option for me. I became resentful and depressed. I saw myself like an object. I really didn't value myself. Neither could I actually love myself. I resented my life. I was suffocated in the world that I was actually living in. I was suicidal. No one could actually see or feel my pain except for me. And at that time, darkness took over me. And when I tried to attempt an awful act of trying to take my own life,
Mm.
the frustration actually and the anger built up. So I knew that when I came back to the UK, I needed to plan an escape. So I lost all hope. I lost, my faith in God, even in my own existence, thinking to myself, why am I still alive, breathing? But I came back to the UK, and in a blink of an eye, the day came when I had to face my fear and let my fear turn to strength.
Sorry, Tina, I want you to talk about this time you were in Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
So um, you were taken to Bangladesh to meet this guy you'd never met before because the legal part of the marriage had been done in Birmingham. So you flew with your family to Bangladesh
Yeah.
to marry him. What sort of guy was he, if I may ask? Was he older, younger?
No, he probably was he was a young guy. Um, the only reason my family wanted me to marry him is because he was someone that was pretty religious, and he recited the whole. To them, he was known to have recited the whole Quran, and
Okay.
because of that, um, they thought that would be someone just best for me. And to be honest, my entire family didn't attend the wedding. It was just because there was quite a lot of us, and obviously my family couldn't afford for
To
everyone to
try.
fly over. So I
Mm.
didn't even have half of my brothers and sisters there, or my dad. It was just my mom, maybe one sister, my grandma, and an aunt. That was about it.
Oh wow. So it couldn't have been a day of joy, you know.
No, it was
Oh,
more like I felt like an object. I felt like I was this object, um, just
mm.
somebody else's possession, and
How
that's how.
did was the guy? I'm just curious here. Was the guy himself happy to be married? Did he come back to the UK with you?
N- n- Well, it's one of those things where for me, when like I was a British Bangladeshi girl, so this person, a lot of people use us British girls to be
Mm,
a ticket to the UK, to the UK. So it's one of the reasons why a lot of people get married, I guess, culturally speaking, abroad.
mm,
So for me, he didn't come back with me because I was starting the process of immigration. There had to be a lot of proof, to show immigration that we have been married. But it was
mm,
the worst thing of my life, to be honest, thinking about it. Um, it's not something that I wanted for myself.
mm. Okay.
Everything was just so controlled by the hands of my own family, and he's so, and so I think for him it was a ticket also, just to come over to England.
I want you to talk to us about how that marriage ended and your subsequent journey to Canada. How long from when you got married and you met your husband that you're now married to, and then you came to Canada. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I was obviously still a teenager. Um, I think the process began, and I think I don't know, I think about 19, 20 I was. Um, I can't remember too much, but it was within a year or two. He came, he had, my husband had access to his visa. So by the time while he was there, I was actually in the UK planning my escape
Right.
because I had a reality check. And to me, I had to make two choices. It's either was going to be stuck in this life of Islam with with this husband, or it would be a choice of freedom. So I chose freedom, but that freedom came with the biggest consequence of my life. Because when I chose freedom, I actually escaped my entire marriage, and I left home, and the actual consequence of that was my entire family disowned me. So while he was in Bangladesh and everything was happening, and where I was working, there was a immigration. It's not even an immigration office, but there was an organization opposite, and there was these women that help young women like myself, because of a lot of this arranged marriage and forced marriages happen a lot in the UK.
Yeah.
So there were these women that actually, you know, I felt God at the time. I didn't realize, but it's so crazy because it's almost like God sort of ordained these paths, and I ended
Mm.
up going to this lady, and she helped me, and that organization helped me to rehouse in a completely different place. But it was
Mm.
just a matter of knowing when the right time would be to leave
Mm.
everything. And as I was working, my parents, they made me actually rent a house in the same street as them. So everything was planned. When this guy comes over, everything would be set up. So I was in this home, and I was working, and I had to buy furniture, just prepare everything for him. And that's what happened. And the time when
Mhm.
he came, soon as he came, it didn't take that long. I actually just I escaped. Um, I left everything in my home, everything that I owned, my
Mm.
clothes, furniture, everything. I just remember the day I left, I just took two pairs of underwear. I had my work clothes on. I had my bank card. I only had about £3,000, probably, which is equivalent to 6 grand or so in Canadian. And I took the clothes I was wearing, and two, 3 pairs of underwear, and I left everything behind.
Mm. Oh wow! You're right. It does sound like Providence was on your side. So at this point, were you considering Christianity, or you were just this was human rights? This was you just fighting for your sanity. This was you just getting out of a very horrific and horrible situation. Okay. So could you talk us through what happened when you were taken to shelter, and now you eventually came to Canada, and how is it, would I say God found you?
Mm-hmm.
How your
So
fate changed. Yeah.
yeah, eventually, like the Muslim marriage did dissolve, and I met my husband. We were actually, at the time, we were friends because we were working together, but at that time I was too busy concentrating on my escape and things.
Yeah.
So eventually, like, yeah, my husband now, he's a, he at the time I met him, he was a different culture and a different faith. He wasn't of a Muslim faith. So we eventually got married. I had two children, and in 2013, I came over to Canada. And yeah, me and my husband and my two kids, we immigrated to Canada. And in 2016, the most extraordinary transition happened to me here in Canada, Alberta. And it was a step of faith that transformed my life forever. And it was a personal faith that led me to restoration, healing, and peace. And that was my Muslim's journey to Christ.
Mm, mm. Oh, I see. When I just assumed it was through all that crisis you found Christ. So, what was Canada? How different was Canada for you from Birmingham? Um,
Yeah, first of all, I came to Canada, and you know, you're here with your new family, and I didn't know anybody, which was a good thing for me. I felt I didn't get judged, which was another good thing for me, and nobody knew me, so you know, and nobody would question my life or anything like that. So I was just such a brand new open book, and I felt so much in that aspect. I felt a lot of freedom, and I was just like starting a new life with my family in a new country. But however, don't get me wrong, I still carried the baggage. I felt like I had this heavy chain. I was
mm,
still kind of not fully happy. I was still depressed, and
mm, mm,
you know, um, I think it
mm,
was 2016 where depression hit me.
mm,
I believed I was such a failure, and again, like it's like loving myself. It was so extreme to imagine, and I was lost. I felt I was floating, and I didn't actually. I felt like I didn't belong, and I was always stuck in the fear of my Islamic thinking. Um, I was suffocating in my own breath, and that my own family and my children, like my own husband and my children, they couldn't really help me. I felt I was heading for a nervous breakdown, and the
mm,
invisible girl, um, I felt like I was that invisible girl who grew up to be that invisible woman that was never seen, but I felt so trapped in my own cocoon. Um, I lacked so much of a mother's love, and I lacked guidance. I had no role model for myself, and I just thought I will never see the light again. It was only 2016. I witnessed a terrible tragedy in front of my eyes. Um, that was when a young man fell and he was dragged under the train. And at that moment, that very moment, um, you know, I questioned my own life, and I said to myself, if I was to die tomorrow, where would my soul go? And how will I be buried since I don't have my Muslim family around me?
mm. I'm so sorry that it took such a very nasty train accident that just shocked you into asking a very difficult question: where do I spend eternity? And what I'd like for you to do for us is to compare you've seen both sides, to compare the argument for where you spend eternity as what you believed before and what it is now. How different is that, um when you talk about where people spend their eternity? I'm really sorry about the accident as well.
To be honest, the accident was an eye opener. That's where, for me, um, that's when my transition happened, and when I questioned myself, because as a Muslim, it was always full of fear, and God was always promoted as fear for me. Um, and everything we do, it was like everything was out of fear, um, because even if we do good deeds, it's almost like you never guarantee that you'll be, in heaven, and it's always will be like, it's just like you just never sure whether you're going to end up
mm,
in heaven
mm,
or hell. Um,
mm,
and we were always, every action that we did, we were always reminded that if you do that, you're
mm,
going to burn in hell, the fires of hell, and this, that, and the other.
mm, mm,
But when I came into Christianity, it was completely something different. It was almost like, it's hard for a Muslim to transition, because I was pretty much a devoted Muslim. I used to read Quran. I used to read my 5 times daily prayer. I used to, fast and do all that kind of stuff. So it was hard for me to transition into Christianity. But then it needs something more for a Muslim person, just, more than someone just to talk and say Christianity is the right way. Because for a Muslim person, someone like myself would have never believed it
mm,
unless I had my own personal supernatural encounter, or some kind of encounter from God. And only then a person can believe, especially coming from a Muslim background, because you're so, for me, I was so brainwashed. Like I didn't know what was right or what was wrong at that point, or what faith is the correct faith. All I knew, Islam was the right faith. And from someone like me, even being such a skeptic, to transition into Christianity, only God could have done that. No, no, no man
So,
can. Yeah.
so Tim, this transition was not born out of pressure. It wasn't that you were in a circle of friends and they put pressure on you to try Jesus, or maybe you went somewhere and the only passport in was through Jesus. This was a decision you took on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that are Christian friends, and when I used to hear them speak, I always see them so peaceful and so, they have this joy about themselves, and like a light coming from them. And I've always longed to have that sort of freedom, and to have, I just don't know what joy feels like, or to be happy, truly happy feels like. But when I
Mm,
have my friends and I see them, and they're just always full of love and joy, and then they always tell me that they have Jesus inside them.
mm,
So there were times I used to like debate with them and things, but I think for me, um, at the time I didn't know anything about Holy Spirit, but now looking back, it was the Holy Spirit that guided me. Because when I witnessed that guy go into the train, that was when I asked my friend, "Can I just go to church with you?"
mm,
And she was extremely happy, and she invited me to church. But one thing that you have to understand, for a Muslim person to even say those words, to go into church, it would have not been allowed, or there's no way I
mm,
would just suddenly say that.
mm,
So something in my spirit asked me to go to the church. So I went to the church the first time. I just saw like how this atmosphere, and the difference was how people were so welcoming, so loving. Um, but when I heard the pastor preach about Jesus Christ and the salvation, that's when he hit me, and I thought to myself, "Oh, I can't do this. I shouldn't be." I felt extreme guilt of stepping into the church, but and I felt confusion. So I went home and I felt really confused. But my friend asked me, "Do you want to go again, second time?" So I don't know what made me change my mind, but I did end up going again, and the second time, same thing happened, but I felt even more guilty, and I actually felt so tormented. Like I just, I was full of tears, and I was just so much full of fear and scared, and I just didn't know what I was doing, why I was in the church. And I felt so trapped in my head that I needed some sort of peace and some sort of something, And so when I went home, I, I, my friend asked me again, and the third time I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna go this time, but this will be the last time I'm going to attend. Um, so it actually took me 3 attempts before I could accept Christ. And each time it was the worst confusion ever. I was so much in a tormented, like a spiritual warfare. And it was like a tug of war, a mind battle between the two faiths, Christianity and Islam. And that was such an overwhelming, like a feel of guilt over me and shadowing all over me. And I felt I was betraying Islam. Like I said, I'm not here to offend any Muslims or Islamic people, but this is just like how I felt. And I can't explain the torment that I felt, because when I heard the salvation prayer the third time, I was distraught. I was just full of tears, and I was full of fear, and my heart was just torn apart, and I just wanted to explode at that moment. And suddenly my brain flicked, and I thought of the Monopoly game. And I thought of Jesus Christ as my jail-free ticket to heaven. And I
Mm,
thought, you know,
mm,
being a Muslim, I'm not even sure whether I'm going to be ending up in heaven or hell. So if what they say is true about Jesus Christ, and he is the way, the truth, and the life, and he's the door, and to get to God, you have to open the door to get into the Father. Then I thought I'll take the jail free card, and I'll just see what happens, because if this does not work out for me, what do I have to lose? I'm just going to go
mm,
back to the same person I was. So I took that ultimate leap of faith and obedience, and I stepped in, and I just, I accepted Christ into my heart. And I
mm,
remember asking forgiveness, and I asked him to show me, if he's real, to show me who he really
mm,
is. And I asked him to remove all the feelings that I felt about myself. I asked him to remove the hate and the shame and the guilt. I asked him to help me move forward from that darkness and help me to live with a purpose in my life, because without having a purpose, that was the biggest tragedy for me. Without having that purpose, my life would not be worth it. And the ultimate step of salvation meant everything to me, because my life depended on it. And the only reason is for a Muslim to convert, into Christ, the ultimate penalty would be death. So that's why I took this walk extremely serious.
mm. Oh wow. I've never heard anything so compelling, Tina. Thank you for sharing that. Um I love religion a lot. When I was growing up, my father was Hindu, and he dabbled into Rosicrucianism, and we did all that together. And he taught me how to chant, and he taught me how to say the home prayer. So I know a lot about religions, and I had an experience that I thought, I'm done experimenting with my dad. I'm just gonna stick to what I know, and I just stopped, and I figured out that uh, the path I was on was the right path. And your story is compelling because no one forced you to make this decision. You came to it on your own. I just wonder, when voices accuse you of denting the Islamic narrative, of putting Muslim women who choose to wear the niqab or the hijab under fire, what would you say? Is that's not why you converted? This is your own testimony. but a Muslim woman could say you're not being fair. That's your own experience. Not all Muslim women are sent off
Yeah.
to a pre, I have the pre-arranged marriage experience. Not all Muslim women are sexually abused. That your set of life circumstances is unique and does not tell the entire Muslim woman's story. What would you say to those voices who accuse you of betraying Islam right now?
Well, you know, what I would say is everyone's brought up in different ways and different families, and and it depends on which family you're in or how they portray Islam to be. And I know in my heart, like, when those girls that do wear hijab, it empowers them. But it empowers them, and it represents who they are. But that's fine. For me, and the truth that I knew, it was something totally opposite. So, like I said, I'm not here to condemn Islam or Muslim. I'm pretty much diverse here. I love different cultures, and the what I know now, Jesus said to love all, and I'm here to love all. I'm not here to condemn anybody, whether you wear a hijab or whether you don't wear a hijab. That's fine. But for me, I had a total different story. I didn't know anything else any more than that. And unfortunately, my Islam and the way that we were covered up, it was not tolerant for me. So I
Mm,
made that choice,
mm,
my own personal choice,
mm.
to find freedom, because that Islam that I came from, it didn't give me that.
Tina, would you find it weird that I'm asking this question? So you gave your life in 2016 to
Mhm.
Jesus. Is it still the same love and fire as then as is now? Do you still feel compelled to remain in Christianity?
Let me tell you something. The first year, I when I gave my life to the Lord, 2016, it was the hardest time, actually. There's so much things to learn about, and also it was hard for me because I felt so much torment fighting to religion. I was still felt so unsure. I just couldn't get my Islamic thinking out. So it took a lot of transition and transformation. And I was still battling, although I did give my life to Christ, because I asked God, and one thing I remember, because in Islam we believe in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, just like Christianity. So I went down on my hands and knees and I asked God, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, if you're real, show me that you are real. But it took me a whole year, and the only thing that I remember, I struggled to hear God's voice. I struggled to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, because when I heard other Christians talking about things like, God said this to me today and I was led by the Holy Spirit, this is the part that I really extremely struggled with, because I just couldn't believe that you can have these encounter type of things. And being a Muslim, I wasn't, I never really experienced or heard such thing like this. I know there's like miracles and wonders and signs also, like people say in Islam, but I've never really witnessed anything for myself. So it was until September 2017, after I was actually water baptized, everything changed for me. And a biggest revelation took place, where that's when I realized Jesus was truly alive. And it was a discovery for me. It was of my name change that became a life change that led me to a new destiny, which changed the course of my thinking forever. So actually, my name was given my name Teena was given to me by my work colleagues when I was 17 years old, because I had to start working to start the process of the immigration. So my actual Muslim birth name was Fatima. But when I was called that name, you know, it made me feel so trapped, which it takes me back to that oppressed and lonely and vulnerable girl in Islam. But when I got called Teena by my colleagues, it gave me a new identity, and I felt so different, and I felt freedom, and you know, I adapted to Teena, and later in life I legally changed it. So going back to my baptism, I actually attended my first prophetic conference. I wasn't quite sure what prophetic was, but it was some words that a speaker spoke over me, and it felt so surreal because I was still a new Christian and still trying to figure things out, and slightly skeptic as well. She told me something that I'll never forget, that she could see angels coming down and from heaven, and it's releasing things over me, and the heaven will open, and it will hit me with so many opportunities. Doors will open one after another in such a fast space. And I wasn't sure if I actually believed her at that point, and I felt so disheartened and frustrated. So the night when I came back from that conference, I was heading back to the car, and I asked one of my friends, like, I didn't understand, and I just don't get it. Maybe the reason why I'm not hearing God's voice like you guys do, or the Holy Spirit, because I said, I don't think I'm ever going to be satisfied until I've, you know, had my own encounter somehow. So in the book of life, I asked my friend on the book of life, what does God has my name as? Teena or Fatima? And my friend said, Teena, God loves you for who you are, but have you ever looked up your name, the meaning of your name, Teena? So I never did really. I, you know, didn't think I had to. So we Googled my name, and that's when the biggest revelation that started my entire journey. And the meaning of my name, when you Google it, actually means follower of Christ. And I was given that name as 17 years old when I was that Muslim girl. So just like that, in a blink of an eye, Jesus became real. My thinking changed, the light bulb went on, and there was no turning them off, because I felt at that moment God saw me and he heard me. He had me all along, carrying me in the palm of his hand when I was that Muslim 17-year-old girl, through all the years of my trauma, through all the mental pain, through all the sufferance that I endured as a child and as a teenager and as a young woman. God already chose me, and he handpicked and he selected me, and he carried me all along all these years, equipping me, molding me, and shaping me when I didn't even know it, until such a time as this. And it was a blink of an eye in God's timing.
It's such a beautiful story, Tina. I want to say thank you so much for sharing. And what I find I love about your stories, it's refreshing. I don't often come across someone ready to speak of their conversion, of their faith, um, even when the environment is hostile. And I know we were at this event, which was really hostile, and you still, plod, you carried on talking about your faith, and I salute that. We don't have too much long to go. I'd like to ask you about your spoken. You're also a spoken word artist. Was
Mm-hmm.
it your Christian faith that inspired that, or that was in there in your heart somewhere waiting to come out?
No,
Talk to us about that. Mm-hmm.
to be honest here, everything happened after I got water baptized. I had no idea what my gifting is. I've never, so so God began to reveal such a special gift, and it, you know, just after I discovered the meaning of my name, around 2 weeks later, I began suddenly to get downloads of divine poems, songs, spoken words, and
Mm,
it actually
mm,
contained the gospel from the Bible. I didn't even realize I was prophesying or evangelizing, and I never really read the Bible or did I have any theology of Christ. So I had this special gift through my voice, something that I could never have done or imagined in my entire Muslim life. I was someone that had actually never rhymed anything. I've never rhymed anything in my entire life, and suddenly I just suddenly found myself preaching the gospel, evangelizing through my writing and my voice with power and passion.
mm.
It's something that I never did in before, and suddenly
Oh
I
wow.
was just started to write, and within 3 hours, I wrote this title with a whole song and with an ending.
Mm.
3 days later, another 3 or 4 hours, I wrote another piece. Another few days later, I wrote another piece, and it just kept coming.
Oh wow, divine inspiration. To send us off tonight, Tina, this is impromptu. We didn't talk about this in our pre-interview chat. Would you like to send us off with a poem or spoken word? Anything you have. We'll
I'll
take
do
it.
one actually. I'll do one. It's called a powerful woman. I've not,
Powerful woman.
and I only have this only because I did this a few days ago. So yeah, this one's called a powerful woman. So I am made in God's perfect image. There's nothing in life I can't handle or manage. No more ties, no more bondage. I am free. There's no more damage. Don't look away. We don't have to fear. Our mighty God is always near. We have the power to live and forgive. Just love and receive. Don't deceive. Just believe. I am created with knowledge and beauty. I speak God's message, and that's my duty. Don't feel hopeless, fearless, or powerless. Don't live in bitterness, blindness, but boldness. Either your heart has been broken or your mind has been opened. He came down, his words been spoken. Take this gift of love, a token. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. Do not judge us or disrespect. Show dignity and self respect. He died for you, He resurrect. So stay connect and just don't regret. He came to you to save and protect. Stay true to yourself. Your heart won't convict. He is God. Let Him predict. His love just flows like an addict. Believe in yourself and follow your heart. You're way too intelligent and heck, you're smart. You're a warrior woman with your sword and armor. Strikes like lightning, your fears were a charmer. Your humanity is your integrity. Stay focused in your sanity. Your tenacity is your destiny. His love for you is endlessly. This is not a fantasy. This chemistry is ecstasy. His love will leave you breathlessly. His forever lasting infinity. Just glorify him and mystify, amplify and magnify. He was justified, be satisfied, carry your cross. He was crucified. Don't be shy, oh my, oh my. He created you like a butterfly. Thank you.
Teena Sandhu. That was incredible. That was incredible. That was incredible. Look at me. I've been set on fire by your words. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, that was incredible. And there you have it, folks. That was Teena Sandhu, a Christian convert and a spoken word artist. I think what we'll do is we'll invite you to come on next time so we can hear more of hear what God is doing through you with your spoken word poetry. And we didn't get to that tonight, and it's okay. So thank you again, Tina. I gotta let you go now. Till next
Thank
time,
you.
this is Ladies Corner with T.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.